1 week left of your fantasy regular season. And so we got to make some crucial start-sit decisions. And we're going to help you with that from start-sit decisions from every single matchup today. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. I am Cameron Lawrence, and I am joined by the one, the only, Mr. Tyler Plath. Tyler, we're recording at a different time today. We're usually night owls recording, but today we're during the day. You got light streaming in. Of course, I got a cloudy day, so you can't even tell. And I'm in Florida, but what the heck? Ty, how are we doing today?
I'm on a I need to build up some credibility after absolutely just like my Tank Dell comment in last episode is still the most like uncalled for, unnecessary comment I've ever made on this podcast. So I need to like earn back trust a bit. And I don't think there's a better episode to do that with the start sit for every single matchup.
Gotta love that. If you're listening on the audio podcast, we thank you very much. If you're on YouTube, we thank you as well, because we know you guys want to see our beautiful faces. And so that's why you're on YouTube listening to us. Make sure you subscribe, hit those notifications, because we got content coming every single day, except for tomorrow, because the fellows are going to Miami with their friends over at Underdog. So we don't have a video coming out tomorrow, but we will resume next week with our regularly scheduled stuff. But let's not waste any more of the people's time, and let's jump right in to the starts and sits from every matchup in week 14. Alrighty. We have 2 buys this week. We have the Washington Commanders, not my team, just a nice sweatshirt. And the Arizona Cardinals. I know, huge playoff implications for those teams. Just kidding. But from a fantasy perspective, it might be. Like if you're sporting Kyler, Hollywood Brown, James Conner,
Sam Howell,
Terry, Brian Robbins. Like these are guys that some people have really come to rely on. I know in our Dynasty League, we have a team, RIP Seth, who his only starting quarterback is Kyler Murray, and his wide receiver 2 or 3 is Hollywood Brown. And he needs to win this week in order to have any chance of making the playoffs. And so that's a hard pill to swallow. So if you are like that, we feel for you. So hopefully we can give you maybe some guys to fill in for those guys on bye. And we're going to start with none other than maybe the greatest game in the history of the NFL on Thursday Night Football coming tonight. New England at Pittsburgh, at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're listening to this on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, please just skip the next probably 2 minutes is all we're going to spend on it, because you don't even want to hear about this. But if you are like, hey, I need something from the Pats Steelers game, hopefully we can give it to you. Ty, is there anyone that you feel confident about starting in this game?
Nope. Zero. Nope. Not at all. I mean, you can look at the Steelers pass catchers and go, well, maybe, but I'd rather look elsewhere, to be completely honest.
So Deontay's the only one I feel real confident in starting. And the reason for that is last season when Mitch Trubisky started in those first 3 weeks, Deontay saw 13, 11, and 12 targets. So we know that Mitch will throw the ball to Deontay. George Pickens, I mean, obviously it's different this year. Pickens has had a full year and a half under his belt at this point. You know, like roles have changed a little bit. Deontay's been frustrated. From the New England side, I don't think there's anyone you can feel confident in.
No.
This is a team that has lost 3 games in a row and has not given up more than 10 points in any of those 3 games. Do you know how bad your offense has to be that your defense has given up 30 combined points in 3 games and you haven't won a single one of them? That's terrible. On the Pittsburgh side, people are going to be looking, if maybe Brian Robinson's on bye, so you're staring down a Najee Harris question here. Ty, are you any interest in starting Najee Harris this week?
Well, it was a question mark that he was going to play in this game, even because of his knee injury, and he is expected to play. But I think Bill recognizes that this offense goes through the run game, and I'm not going to bet against Bill, and I think Bill's going to not sell out, but he's going to do everything that he can to at least stop the run and make it tough for Mitch Trubisky to beat them. So I don't feel great about Najee Harris. It's going to take some convincing even for Jaylen Warren for me in this game too, but specifically for Najee Harris, I not feeling it.
Yeah, the Pats defense has been good. Like we said, they've given up 30 combined points, and they've been great against the run. 3.1 yards per carry over the last 4 games. 63 rushing yards a game is all they're giving up. And Najee doesn't do anything in the passing game right now with Jaylen Warren. And Jaylen Warren hasn't been great either. 2 single-digit PPR games over his last 2. So, like you said, Deontay's really the only one I have any sort of confidence in, and it's not exactly great confidence when it comes to Deontay Johnson. All right, enough time spent on that game. We will move to another game. Houston at the New York Jets. And let's be honest, if we talked about this beginning of the year, we thought that it would be a blowout, but probably in the other direction. I don't think anybody saw Houston coming in, having the great offense, and New York having an offense where they don't even know who wants to start at quarterback anymore. Your obvious guys in this one, CJ Stroud, Breece Hall. I think Garrett Wilson, even with everything going on the quarterback position, has just earned that at this point, if he might not be your wide receiver 1 or 2, but he's for sure a flex option. We should probably talk about him not in the obvious and in the start over this guy. I think Nico Collins is also probably a pretty obvious one. But in case you're considering it, because you're like, man, the Jets have had a great defense, they've allowed 113 receiving yards to wide receivers over the last 5 and the second least amount of points, fantasy points, wide receivers. But Ty, there's no Tank Dell in this offense right now, as you so astutely pointed out last episode. And and Nico Collins has been a target hog these last 3 weeks. I did not realize that, but 11, 9, and 12 targets over his last 3 weeks. I'm not saying he's going to be the wide receiver 1 on offense again this week, or wide receiver 1 again this week, like he was last week. But could you find a reason to put Nico Collins on your bench this week after what we saw last week?
I don't think so. I mean, the Jets' run defense can be exploited, but I'm not sure that the Texans can exploit it. I think other teams could. So there is still this reliance on the passing game and for CJ Stroud to pretty much, carry this offense. So, maybe it's best said as like, it's a bad matchup, but you still have to play him just because who else is going to see, the potential volume, the potential work usage, whatever word you want to use, that Nico Collins is going to see without Tank Dell. That's really what it comes down to.
For sure. And then Dameon Pierce, Devin Singletary, the backfield seemed to kind of shift back to Pierce's favor. 15 carries, a Singletary's 8. Jets have an awful run defense, Ty. Awful.
Nope.
Allowing the 5th most points to running backs.
Nope. Nope.
And you want nothing to do with it?
Nothing. Nope. Because at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. Devin Singletary is the one that gets the carries. It wouldn't surprise me. Dameon Pierce actually, he gets 20 carries in this game. I just have no clue anymore. And it's best to just look elsewhere, I think.
Yeah. Alrighty. I couldn't agree more. I would not want to start either running back if you can avoid it. I think you're pretty desperate too.
I just hope you're not in a spot where you have to rely on one of these guys. Hopefully, one of these guys are your running back 3, running back 4s, right? Your rotational guys. If you're banking on one of these guys being one of your better running backs, not going to say all hope is lost, but you've got an uphill battle this week in week 14.
Dameon Pierce or Najee Harris?
Neither. There.
Just leave the spot open if that's your choice.
Just take the 0, honestly. Take the 0.
Next we got a more fun matchup now. We got the at least to discuss from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, actual NFL too. Rams are 3 straight winners. So
Rams at Baltimore. Baltimore is looking to try to. Are they in first place in the AFC right now, or are they?
I believe it's the Dolphins that have the number 1 seed.
It is the Dolphins. You're right, but the Ravens are right there. Ravens are going to be in the hunt for that playoff bye to try to make the playoffs come through Baltimore. In this game, really only 2 obvious starters. It's Lamar Jackson And you got to start Kyron Williams. Doesn't matter what matchup he's going against at this point. What we've seen the last 2 weeks, what we saw before he got injured, he's the guy in this offense, and he gets ridiculous amount of work. And he has 2 touchdown upside every single week. It's actually ridiculous.
Yep.
But everyone else at this point is crazy. And I want to start with a question that I didn't think we would have to ask back in week 5, but I think it's worth asking: is these Rams wide receivers?
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. I'll just let you take it away. What do you think of? Are you good starting either of them, or do you want to start one of them? What are you thinking with this, Ty?
I don't really feel great about either of these guys, to be completely honest. I mean, let's take a look at Cooper Kupp first. Since week 7, here are his weekly finishes: wide receiver 53, wide receiver 74, wide receiver 49, wide receiver 87. In that game, he picked up an injury. Wide receiver 79 the following week. And then this past week, he was wide receiver 18. Which is great. Like, that's where you kind of want to see Cooper Kupp. But the stat line is scary. It was 6 receptions on 9 targets, which 9 targets is where it should be for Cooper Kupp, but 6 catches only for 39 yards. They had a touchdown. So the touchdown pretty much saved his week. So this isn't the Cooper Kupp of old. This isn't the Cooper Kupp that, that we have grown to love and treasure, really, as fantasy managers. Can we trust him? I mean, is it, I don't know if it's necessarily can we trust Cooper Kupp? Is it more so, can we trust this passing attack? I don't really know. I lean towards no. Baltimore's allowing the 7th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers per game the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I just don't feel great about Cooper Kupp. I mean, again, the touchdown saved him last week. The fact that we're only putting up 40 yards on 6 catches does not bode well for him, at least in my opinion.
Can I read you his yardage total since he returned from injury?
Oh, gosh.
So in week 5, 118, 148 yards first 2 games back. Sounds great. Since then, 29, 21, 48, 11. He left early in that game. 18 and 39. I saw his line this week on Underdog of 48.5 yards. I was excited about that. I was like, what are they doing? This is crazy. You look at those yardage totals. He hasn't hit that. He's only hit that 2 weeks this entire season. Can you believe that about Cooper Kupp? That is not that. It's scary. It is, and he does look hurt. I think. Yeah, he doesn't look like you said. It doesn't look like Cooper Kupp from last year. It looks like there's things bother, whether it's his ankle, so the ham. I don't know what it is, but he looks off. Now the rookie broke a 70-yard touchdown against the Cleveland Browns last week. Are you interested in starting Puka?
Is it that crazy to say that I feel a little bit better if I had to start Puka over Cooper Kupp?
Not at all.
Right. And if I didn't, if we didn't share the stats about Cooper Kupp, it would sound a little more crazy. But after explaining Cooper Kupp's side of things, it really does kind of lean towards Puka, at least between these two guys. When they play together, Cooper Kupp, he plays in the slot 57% of the time, 43% of the time out wide. And it's pretty much the inverse for Puka then, 37% in the slot, 63% out wide. In Baltimore over the last 4 weeks, the 7th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers per game, right? But they are allowing the fewest fantasy points per game to the slot, but the 12th most fantasy points per game out wide. So just from that perspective, it does kind of lean Puka, right? Doesn't it? Does it not?
Yeah, it definitely feels like it. It is crazy. We knew there was going to be a drop off for Puka after Kupp return, and even though Kupp hasn't looked like himself of old, hasn't taken necessarily the targets, Puka's only had one double-digit game with double-digit target game since Cooper Kupp has returned. So that is something to keep in mind. But yardage has been much better. He's found the end zone, and he's still been viable for fantasy. Whereas Cooper Kupp, except for last week, where he was wide receiver 18, really hasn't at all. Like Cooper Kupp's been a stinker in your lineup since week 7. So it is interesting on the Ravens side of the ball, right? We got some rookies coming up that are exciting. You got Keaton Mitchell, Zay Flowers. Are those guys you want to put in your starting lineups?
I'm not so sure, honestly.
That's where I'm at. Keaton Mitchell scares me this week.
Yeah, even though we say that because I should say it like this. We bring up Keaton Mitchell because in week 12, before Baltimore went into the bye, it was Keaton Mitchell that dominated snaps, rushing, not dominated rushing attempts. They all pretty much shared rushing attempts, but he dominated in routes.
Yeah.
So if there's a lead guy, and if that week 12, utilization sticks, it's then Keaton Mitchell that's the lead back. So that's the reason why we're bringing him up. I just don't like the matchup this week against the Rams, though. They're allowing the 9th fewest fantasy points over the last 4 weeks to running backs, the 10th fewest yards per carry in that same stretch, and they've allowed no more than 48 rushing yards to a running back in a single game the last 3 games. I don't know. Again, this is a very similar one to a Dameon Pierce or Devin Singletary for me, in the sense that, like, I really, really hope that you're not banking on Keaton Mitchell, at least for this week. There is upside.
Yes, for sure.
But
dynasty upside for sure.
Dynasty, yes. But in terms of this week, it doesn't look great. And then I'll just keep rolling here. Zay Flowers, who now, seems to be the go-to, or at least the lead guy in terms of, receiving work. I'm not super confident in him either this week. Rams are middle of the pack in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. But the interesting thing in week 12, in their first game without Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers had 7 targets, and Odell and Rashad Bateman both had 5 targets. So it's not like this is one of those, like, we're going to funnel targets to Zay Flowers. They are spreading the ball around it quite a bit. So, you could say, well, I'm going to play him because he is, like, the best weapon that they have. But at the same time, like, it's not like the work has been there. He scored twice in week 12. One was a 37-yard rushing attempt, right? Like, I don't know if there's enough there to really bank on when it comes to Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot too just going back to Keaton Mitchell for a second, where people think it's almost like Devon A-Chain situation, right? Where he might only get 10 touches, but we saw a week, whatever it was, 9 or 10, he had 143 yards and put up 20 plus fantasy points. Like, yes, I think he could be like a Devon A-Chain light almost in this offense. But at the same time, there is that floor of, if he doesn't find the end zone and he doesn't rush for 7 yards per carry, that you get 6 fantasy points out of him. Like, I think that we need to state that as well. Like, yes, there is upside. Yes, it could be awesome, but he could be a guy that sees, eight carries for 25 yards and gets 1 catch for 12 yards, and that's it. And, and that's all you have for a week of Keaton Mitchell. Let's move on. We got a divisional matchup now. Carolina at New Orleans. Game of the week, what everyone's going to be watching. Obvious starts in this one. You got to start Alvin Kamara. Carolina has been good against the pass. Jameis, I think, is starting. I haven't seen a confirmed one on Carr's status. I know he's in concussion protocol.
He practiced, which is absurd. But
because he's got a concussion, he's got like a shoulder injury at the same time, and he's got like another injury that he's dealing with. The dude is taking shots back there, both from the fans and from
right. Oh my word.
But I think Chris Olave has earned at this point that no matter who is starting, no matter the defense, you got to have him in your starting lineup. For me in this one, the start is Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba. Yeah, Chuba.
I know it's Chuba. Chuba Hubbard sounds so much better though. New Orleans has been great against wide receivers, but they have not been good on the ground. They've given up the 5th most rushing yards to running back position over the last 5 weeks, and this, Panthers, are showing they'll use Hubbard in the running game, right? They gave him 25 rush attempts last week, double digit every single week since their bye. He's had 2 games in his last 6 with at least 5 targets. So there is, that receiving upside. It's not consistent at this point, but there is receiving upside with him. He's had 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks, 17 and 22 fantasy points in those games. He's a guy where if you're staring down Najee or Hubbard, or if you're staring down Dameon Pierce or Hubbard is the guy I would lean towards in that situation, right? I'm not saying he's putting up 2 touchdowns again. I'm not saying he's getting 25 rush attempts, but I do think he gets a healthy enough amount of rushes. I think he's got goal line opportunities that he's someone that you should put in your lineup. Anything you want to add on Chuba real quick?
This team is really going to be pretty reserved when it comes to their play calling.
Yeah.
So that means a ton of work for Chuba Hubbard. They're not really going to throw Bryce Young out there, in
the fire.
Right. Like, which I don't necessarily blame them for, but at the same time, I could talk about the Panthers for a while because it's not a coach's fault. It's not a player's fault. It's Mr. Tepper. I could talk about it for a while, but again, if there's a Panthers player to play, I think it is Chuba Hubbard this week.
Yeah, let's talk about one of his teammates quick. Adam Thielen, old man Adam Thielen, right? He's a guy before the bye. Wide receiver 3, wide receiver 6 looked amazing, right? After the bye, it's been rough these last couple of games. Finishing outside the top 40 wide receivers. There's a reason though. We've been kind of pounding the table of sell Adam Thielen. We've made him look silly a couple times of, oh no, then he goes out and but he's 33 years old, right? We've seen him kind of start to fade over the last few seasons. This isn't a great team. So for him to be able to keep up what he was doing would have been insanely impressive, close to an anomaly. And the Saints have been the best team against wide receivers from a fantasy perspective over the last 5 weeks, Ty, allowing 20 fantasy points a game. Only 7 wide receiver receptions a game. That's a crazy number to me. Everything has been going to the running backs or tight ends. They are getting destroyed by tight ends, to be fair. I think they're giving them 94 receiving yards in the same time to tight ends. So they're getting destroyed by the tight end, but they're locking down wide receivers. And in 3 of the last 6 games with less than 8 fantasy points. That was one of your notes, so I just stole that from you.
Yeah, but that's Adam Thielen, not any opponent. The Saints. That's Adam Thielen directly. Yeah. So, do you have interest in starting Adam Thielen? Like, where's your line for Adam Thielen at this point? Like, what range do you have him falling in? Is he going to be in like if Zay Flowers? Let's say, would you rather start Zay Flowers or Adam Thielen this week? I'd rather start Zay Flowers.
George Pickens.
Oh,
but here's where I want everyone to listen. The fact we are thinking the fact we're considering this in a game where Mitch Trubisky started, they're playing against Patriots on Thursday night, and we have to consider at this point between Adam Thielen and George Pickens should show you the range that Adam Thielen's falling in.
It's like the lowest of ends when it comes to Adam Thielen for like starting consideration. Like he is just barely in that like 35-36 conversation for your wide receiver 3 or flex. Like it's not good. It's not good. And I will say this too. If we just if we just talked about Chuba Hubbard and the fact that this offense is going to be pretty reserved, they're going to just feed Chuba Hubbard the ball. That doesn't really bode well for Adam Thielen then in the passing game. I could just expose you real quick because you before I made the change to have a conversation about Adam Thielen, you had him as a obvious start.
Did I really?
You did.
Oh, my bad.
Do you want to take that back? I
do 100%. I can't believe I wrote that because that's why I started just babbling. I thought I put that in there. So that's 100% my bad. I just completely stole Ty's thunder right there on that one. So
in conclusion about Adam Thielen, sit him this week.
Yes, for sure. You got to sit him. We'll move on to the Colts versus the Bengals. You got to start Joe Mixon. Ty, we were talking about this in our group chat. Running back 2 over the last 4 weeks. Running back 3 over the last 6 weeks. Isn't that crazy about Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon's got to be in your starting lineup, and the Colts have not been good against the run over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, you're starting Jamar Chase. We saw a lot of people are, it's Jake Browning. Well, they just went into Jacksonville, who was fighting for the number 1 seed, and Jamar Chase lit them up. So, yeah, you're starting Jamar Chase. Yep. Michael Pittman, you got to start as well at this point. And Zach Moss. People, if you forgot how good he was without Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the year, yeah, you got to lock him in because Zach Mott's pretty good for fantasy at this point.
He averages 23 touches a game without
Which
Jonathan
is
Taylor.
Insane.
That's
crazy.
That's bell cow status.
Yes.
That is like the usage alone. He is locked in, and you do not take him out because, again, like that's absurd. That's an absurd amount of work
for sure. So we're starting the wide receiver ones of both teams. We're starting their RB ones of both teams. Let's talk about the wide receiver twos for both teams. We'll start with T. Higgins, Ty. Which direction are you going with T. Higgins?
I lean a sit with T. Higgins. I think if I could make a tier of wide receivers for this week, it's like T. Higgins, Adam Thielen, George Pickens. Like those are those like 30, 38, 39, 40, like wide receiver 38, 39, 40 wide receivers this week. I just think this offense is very simplified in Cincinnati. We're going to rely on Joe Mixon. We're going to rely on the run game that way. And we're going to rely on Jamar Chase, who's our number one playmaker. Like, sure. I just don't think there's going to be enough for T. Higgins really to make an impact in your lineups this week.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. It's just T. Higgins has been a bummer this year. I mean, and it's not even all like, I'm not saying it's his fault, right? He's had injuries of his own. You got the Joe Burrow has had multiple injuries, right? It's been a tough year. And if you drafted T. Higgins, it was kind of a down year last year as well for T. Higgins. So it's been 2 years in a row of this kind of stinks.
Which I want to tease for maybe a off-season conversation. Can this Cincinnati offense really support two wide receivers? Because we've been having this conversation about T. Higgins for, like you said, a year and a half, 2 years now at this point, and it hasn't really delivered. So can this offense really support two wide receivers? And again, maybe we talk about that in the offseason, but
for sure,
it's a conversation at this point.
Yeah. And another conversation could be, is T. Higgins still going to be a Cincinnati Bengal?
And if they bring him back, I do not understand it. But again, we'll talk about that later.
For sure. The other wide receiver two in this game is Josh Downs. Ty, I was a big Josh Downs guy.
You were
huge Josh Downs believer. And it hasn't been great since Josh Downs returned from that knee injury. What is your confidence level in Josh Downs?
I honestly have no idea. Like, I maybe Josh Downs also goes in that same Adam Thielen, T. Higgins tier of the, it's either the not so great situations or just the complete unknowns. Because, like you said, in the 3 games since he came back from so he left week 9 with his knee injury. Week 10 on, he's averaging only 3 receptions on 7 targets. And that target number is heavily skewed because he had 13 targets in week 12. So if you take that game out, and I know people hate that argument, you just can't take a game out. Well, I'm using it to prove a point. You take out that 13 target game in week 12, he's then averaging 2.5 receptions on 4 targets. It's not great. So, and I think the question here is, Cincinnati's, secondary is middle of the pack in terms of wide receivers and fantasy points allowed. So is there enough to start Josh Downs? And that's where I'm just like, I have no clue. And that's why I don't think I can start him in week 14 when we need wins, when we need to lock up fantasy, the playoff spots. Yeah. I would not like to bank on Josh Downs.
Yeah, I think if I'm in that situation, I'm staring down T. Higgins versus Josh Downs, I'm going to lean T. Higgins this week. I think Higgins has a safer floor. And I also like looking at Josh Downs, what he's done, right? He's more of a possession receiver where T can go make that big play. I think T has the bigger upside as well. So I think I would lean T. Higgins in this one, but it is still a close decision. We go back to another NFC South divisional matchup this week. We got Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Obviously, starting the running back ones for both teams, Rashad White and Bijan Robinson. Rashad White, running back 2 over the last 6 weeks. Pretty impressive. Mike Evans has earned the spot of being an every week start at this point. Tyler, I'm gonna say my start for this one, Drake London. I'm hopping on the bandwagon this week.
Wow.
London has played well in good matchups this year. He has. When they have a bad matchup, you got to stay away from Drake London. But when they have a good matchup, he's played well, including in week 7 when they played at Tampa Bay, and he had 7 targets, 5 receptions, and 54 yards. Obviously not great, but that's still 10 PPR fantasy points. It's still pretty solid. You throw a touchdown in there, and all of a sudden you're crazy happy. And Tampa Bay has been awful this year against the wide receiver position. You look at any 4-week stretch throughout the year. That's what I was doing. I was kind of just messing around. They are bottom 5 against the receiver every single 4-week stretch you look at. They've just been terrible. So yeah, I think if you've got Drake London on your team and you're staring down T. Higgins versus Drake London right now, I'm firing up Drake London. I'm jumping all aboard that this week. I'm on the Drake London train. I might be close to captaining the Drake London train for week 14. Okay, I'm not fully on rest of the season, but week 14, I'm all in on Drake London.
I just think I think I put Drake London in that same tier because look, it's week 14. We need to have like the most sure things possible for our lineups, and Drake London has been anything but that.
Yeah, he's still got Arthur Smith.
You still got Arthur Smith. So like oh man. That Drake London might be one of the he might be the I think you should play him, but he is the riskiest okay start this week. If that makes I'm trying to find the right way to say it. It's the matchup is there, the usage is there in good matchups.
It's an Arthur Smith game. It should all be there. It should all be there. But will it actually is the real question.
Gosh, man. Let's move on.
I can't get himself excited.
I can't. My head is
going to be let down. Alrighty. Let's talk about that other Falcon pass catcher, top 10 pick, Kyle Pitts.
Oh my gosh.
Is he a start? Is he a sit? Tampa Bay allowing the 5th most receiving yards to tight ends since week 9. However, Kyle Pitts hasn't had over double-digit PPR fantasy points since week 6. The 4th overall, or was he 4th? He was 4th.
He was 4th,
pick, right? Yeah, he was ahead of Jamar Chase
by a pick. Yeah,
hasn't put up more than double-digit fantasy points since week 6 on a team that focuses on running the ball and running off play action.
If you look at him on the year real quick, sorry, I'm going to barge in.
Oh, please do. Let's pile it on.
He only has 2 top 10 finishes on the year, which solid, but again, it's the tight end spot. So yeah, anyone could do that. Right. His best finish on the year since then, 9.6 fantasy points.
It's just awful.
Oh my gosh. Arthur Smith.
If there is,
get him out.
We say free all these players, right? We're like, free this guy, free this guy. There are 2 players in the NFL who we need to free. First one is Jameis, and it's just because he's such a good guy. Maybe I shouldn't even say good. I don't know him, but
he's a walking meme as well.
He's a personable guy who people love. I'll put it that way. And Kyle Pitts. Talk about wasting talent. They have done nothing but waste this man's talent. They have not even... They go, it'd be really good for Pitts if we use him like a big wide receiver and throw him the ball a ton. You know what? Let's not do that and see if he can figure it out. It's insane. Yeah. It is legitimately insane. All right, before we get any more fired up, let's move on to the next matchup because otherwise this is going to be an anti-Arthur Smith podcast for the rest of the day. Last matchup before we take a quick break and hear from our friends over at Underdog, we have Jacksonville at Cleveland. Man,
this game at the beginning of the year was very interesting, and it is the complete opposite now.
Yeah, it's going to be disgusting. It's going to be Joe Flacco versus CJ Beathard.
Well, and he's questionable. He's not even locked into start.
It's going to be third strings versus third strings. This is ridiculous. Actually, Joe Flacco is like the 5th at this point, but it's just gross. Man,
do we really have to talk about this game?
I hope they pick up like Matt Ryan or something, and we can get like a throwback to like 2012. Like these 2 quarterbacks, you got neither of them can take a step out of the pocket. They're just sitting there back there flinging it. So that really leaves Jerome Ford as the only obvious start in this one.
Yeah.
Does it not?
I mean, it really, we say Jerome Ford is an obvious start, even though it doesn't sound like it. The guy has finished as a top 24 running back in 7 of his last 8 games.
And the Jags just let Joe Mixon score 30 fantasy points last week.
There's top 15 upside for Jerome
100%. And some people are going to hear this and go, what's Travis Etienne? It's the Browns defense.
The Browns defense.
There's no guarantee in this game for any Jags players, Ty. What are your thoughts just real quick on the Jags players this week? Christian Kirk, real quick for everyone, is going to miss 5 to 8 weeks. So they are without Christian Kirk.
That stings. Yeah. That stings.
That hurts.
Don't mind me just doing some research on the fly. Hey, guess what? Travis Etienne the last 4 weeks, he's a running back 22.
Yeah. You want to know when I traded for him? 4 weeks ago.
Woo. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks.
Buy high, baby.
Yeah, buy high. Oh gosh. So okay. Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne are really the 3 Jags players that we're considering. Zay Jones, we're not starting at all. Like,
nope. After what we've seen.
Calvin Ridley, I think I like him better than that, like Adam Thielen, T. Higgins tier.
Just slightly. I think I would agree. No matter who the quarterback is, because they got to throw to someone.
Yeah. Evan Ingram has been, I don't know if steady is the right word, but he's been one of the more consistent tight ends on the year. So I feel like you still have to play him. ETN, you probably still start, but you can't. I don't think we can expect like first half of the year Travis Etienne anymore. And especially in this matchup against a Cleveland defense that I will admit, Cleveland's run defense has been exposed a little bit the last 4 weeks. This is at Cleveland though, and Cleveland at home has played considerably better than on the road. So yeah, like I said, I don't think we can expect like that top 10 Travis Etienne that we saw at the first half of the year, at least for this matchup. And there's a good chance for the rest of the year too.
Yeah. Jacksonville currently does not list a quarterback 3 on their roster. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, who they pick up, what they call up from a practice squad.
Well, let's have a little bit of fun. I know we're taking up some time, but I want to look at it like current free agent quarterbacks.
All right. Well, you look them up real quick. I'm going to discuss Amari Cooper, and then we'll have a little fun with who could be the quarterback of the Jags if Beathard can't go. Amari Cooper, obviously, you got Joe Flacco again this week. He did get he was put in concussion protocol. We don't know if he's for sure going to play. He did see 5 targets in a quarter and a half with Joe Flacco just before the second half. He's probably a guy, if he's going, you got to start him. If he can't go, Elijah Moore might be a sneaky start. Elijah Moore, I don't know if you saw the splits because he played with Joe Flacco at the Jets as well. He's played very well with Joe Flacco over his career. And if he's the wide receiver 1 in this offense, Elijah Moore might be a sneaky guy that if you're staring down Josh Downs or Elijah Moore, I might lean Elijah Moore this week if Amari Cooper can't go. If Amari Cooper's playing, I think I'd take Josh Downs, but Elijah Moore is definitely an interesting one. All right, Ty, what do you got? Who are some free agent quarterbacks who could be starting for the Jags if CJ Beathard can't go?
Colt McCoy.
Oof.
Chase Daniel comes out of retirement.
Oh my goodness. They're going to have to call up someone who hasn't thrown a football in like 7 weeks.
Cam Newton.
I would love that. I would love that for a week. Him and Travis Etienne don't even throw the ball the whole game.
Yeah, sorry, Calvin Ridley. You're gonna have to take a back seat on this one. What about? Oh my gosh, that's really about it.
Carson.
Well, Carson's on the Rams, is he not?
Oh, that's right. He signed Philip Rivers. Retirement.
You take Philip Rivers out of his family of 10 at this point.
50.
Right. The Jets just Tim Boyle just got released.
Tim Boyle, baby.
Tim Boyle.
Yeah. I don't obviously, if they had to sign someone to start them at this point, it would be pretty insane this late in the week. So I don't think they're going to, but just to show you if they had to pick someone up like for next week, if Trevor Lawrence can't go, it is gross if they have to try and go and find somebody, especially if Colt McCoy might be your best option. But we're going to take a quick break and hear from our friends over at Underdog. They will be back with the rest of the matchups, which we are going to have to fly through a little bit. But don't worry, we'll still take our time and break them down effectively.
Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100.
Welcome back. We are here to break down the rest of your matchups. And we're going to start with a matchup we've already seen. Detroit at Chicago. We saw it 2 weeks ago, or actually 3 weeks ago now. And Justin Fields looked all right that game. It did help that he had 18 rush attempts for over 100 yards. But the obvious starts to this one, still got to roll out those 2 Detroit running backs. I know it's not a great game for them, right? Chicago's run defense has been good, but Gibbs has proven he can get it done through the air and with efficiency. And Monty is a multi-touchdown, guy at this point. Threat, that's the word I'm looking for. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and DJ Moore. You gotta start both of those guys. Both are top 10 wide receivers on the season. Or actually, DJ Moore is not actually now that he's just had his bye. He's a top 15 wide receiver. All righty. Anyways, we're going to start with my favorite start of this week. Justin Fields, one of my favorite starts. I did a must start video and Justin Fields was on that. 22 points in his first game back against the Lions. Over his last 2 weeks, remember, because they had a bye last week, 30 rush attempts and 163 rushing yards over his last 2 games. Like I said, he had 22 points. He did have 8 against Minnesota, but it is partly because he's only had 1 touchdown in that entire time since he came back. But he does get a favorable matchup here, like against the Lions, who are going to the 4th most points to the quarterback position over the last 4 weeks. We talked about it. Actually, we didn't talk about it. I talked about it yesterday. Just this Lions team hasn't been very good against receivers. They haven't been very good against quarterbacks, but they've been very good on the ground. So, Justin Fields to me feels like a guy that you do really need to be starting. You need to get in. Obviously, we know his upside, and this is a game where he could hit that upside at home. And then to sit in this game, I want absolutely nothing to do with the Bears running backs. It is a gross proposition, even in a good matchup, because we don't know who the starter is at this point. It could be Roshan Johnson. They could continue rolling with him, the rookie. We could go to Khalil Herbert. We could go Deonta Foreman. We have no idea. I'm not going to try to guess, and it's not a good matchup. Detroit has given up less than 70 rushing yards a game to running backs since week 9. I don't think, Ty, is there anything else you want to add to that matchup? Or
no,
just keep moving on.
Keep on moving.
We got Seattle at San Francisco, another divisional matchup this week. And you really do have to start all 49ers players.
Literally.
McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. All 5 should be in starting lineups this week. And I mean, we have not been the best, Brock Purdy, like we're all for it. But with what his team can do in this matchup against Seattle, who just got lit up last week by Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy's got to be a top 12 option this week. Obviously, if you've got Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, don't say, well, I can't start. Should I start Purdy or those? Obviously, you're starting the 2 or 1 to 4 best quarterbacks over Brock Purdy. But if he's, you're between him and Jared Goff, I'd probably lean Brock Purdy this week.
Yep.
On the Seattle side, Tyler Lockett. What do we do? JSN's looking good. DK Metcalf has popped off. What the heck do we do with Tyler Lockett, Ty?
I don't like it. Tyler Lockett over the last 3 weeks has had no more than 10 fantasy points in each game.
Oh, Ty, don't say so.
I don't know if it's week 14. Mm-hmm. It's week 14. I can't bank on Tyler Lockett this week.
Yeah. Are you starting JSN over Tyler Lockett this week?
No, because I think JSN and Tyler Lockett again are in that T. Higgins, Adam Thielen tier.
I agree with you. It's a tough decision at this point.
It's tough, but I'm worried that we're going to see another game like we saw the first time that these teams played, where there is quite literally nothing going on for this Seattle offense, and it is all San Francisco
for sure. And then we got the Seahawks running backs. Are we even going to see Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker? Is it going to be the DJ Dallas show? Or we're going to see one of them. What do we do with this, Ty?
I feel so bad for Seattle. They need this game so bad.
Yeah, they do.
They are not gonna. Man, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet are both sits for me. They both were non-participants in practice on Wednesday. At least with Charbonnet, there's some receiving work that he can get. But in terms of rushing production, it's going to be ugly for both of them. I just don't feel great. I don't feel great about both of them.
I couldn't agree more. That's 100% how I feel. DK is probably the only Seahawk that we have any confidence in. And
it's not much.
No, it's, he was great last week, but you're not banking on that again.
We're not banking on scoring every 2 catches or every, whatever it was. It's just not going to happen again.
Yeah. All righty. This next one, we have Minnesota at Las Vegas, and I need to confess something. I, for some reason, wrote down Minnesota versus the Rams on our doc, and I filled in all the notes as if Minnesota was playing the Rams. I even had the obvious starts as I put Puka and Kupp in this one, crazily enough, even though they weren't even obvious starts when we talked about the Rams earlier. So you need to bear with us a little bit. We know what we're talking about.
I got the stats pulled up.
Ty's got us. So if there's anything that's off at all, it's because this matchup's a little more on the fly from the Vegas side, and that's 1,000% on me. So I do apologize. Your obvious starts, Justin Jefferson. Everyone's saying like, oh, what do we think? He's coming back. It's Justin freaking Jefferson, who's had an extra 3 weeks to get back, to full health. You're starting Justin Jefferson. TJ Hawkinson, tight end 1 over the last 8 weeks. You're starting TJ Hawkinson, Devontae Adams. I'm still confident in Devontae Adams. I got him like a Mike Evans. I think maybe not the best matchup, but at the same time, Devontae's always played well against the Vikings. So I would start Devontae Adams here. The guy I want to ask you about, Josh Jacobs as well. Sorry, Josh Jacobs, you got to be starting. Minnesota's been good against running back position, but even when Josh Jacobs has a bad rushing game, they find a way to figure it out. This receiving work, and he's been getting crazy volume to begin with. But I think a lot of people are going to be asking, Jordan Addison, what the heck do we do with Jordan Addison in this game? Right, he's going to be the third option again, behind Jefferson and Hawkinson. In his first 4 games with Jefferson, he had 16, 16, 11. And then he got hurt in week 4, left early. And then in week 5, when Jefferson got hurt, he had 18 against the Chiefs. Do you trust Jordan Addison enough to put him in your starting lineup against Vegas this week, Ty, or how are we feeling?
I feel slightly better about Jordan Addison than I do some of again, I'm going to refer to this tier, this Adam Thielen, T. Higgins tier. Mm-hmm. I feel slightly better about Jordan Addison. Vegas over the last 2 weeks. Well, they were on bye in week 13, so I can't really use last 2 weeks argument. But let's do last 4 weeks. in 3 games, right? Since it still includes their bye week, they are 2, 4, 6, 8, 9th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So I think the matchup is there. The only concern that I have for Jordan Addison is the fact that without Jefferson in his last 4 games with Josh Dobbs, his highest point total was 10.9.
Yeah.
So does Jefferson coming back actually help Jordan Addison?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would if it was Kirk Cousins under center.
Yes.
It's the Josh Dobbs effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say it like this. I feel slightly better about Jordan Addison than I do than some of the guys in that T. Higgins tier, but it is not by much. And if we get closer and closer, and I should say, as we get closer and closer to Sunday, there's a chance that Jordan Addison falls into that tier just because it hasn't been there with Josh Dobbs this year for Jordan Addison.
Yeah, I would agree. I am currently going to be starting Jordan Addison in one of my leagues, but it's as my second flex, and my only other options are Devin Singletary and Miles Sanders, right? So it's not like I'm sitting here with options. I think he's going to fall at the top 36 wide receivers this week. Obviously, he's shown, with Jefferson, he gets a lot more one-on-one. He's able, has broken a couple deep balls. So he does have that upside, but I don't know if that's necessarily something I want to bank on this week. And then the next we got Alexander Mattison, right? Jefferson coming back. Does that mean they're going to just pass more? Does that mean it opens up rushing lanes? Ty Chandler has been looking much better, more explosive on the ground. And I mean, even in do we ever really want to start Alexander Mattison?
Nope, never.
So do you have any confidence in starting him this week? I had him listed as a sit, but that was more because he was playing the Rams, who have a pretty decent run defense in my head. So now he's playing Vegas. I don't remember where Vegas is at from the run game.
They're middle of the pack against the run over the last 4 weeks.
So yeah, I'm not really interested in starting Alexander Mattison. I can avoid it.
No, I think, let's take a look at just what he's done over the last 3 games. Oh my gosh, where is he? Oh my word, where did he go? He is the running back 48 over the last 4 weeks. Sit him. There is no way Alexander Mattison touches your lineup. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, his fantasy points since week 10 have been 4.37 and 8.3. So not great. Since Josh Dobbs took over, he's had 2, 1, 1, and 2 receptions. So he's just absent in the receiving game. Has not looked amazing. He looked good against Denver.
And that
but he didn't find the end zone. Alexander Mattison is yet to have a rushing touchdown of the year. So yeah, I would stay away from him. All right, let's move on to another divisional matchup out west in Denver versus the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, you're starting. Cortland Sutton, I feel like we keep saying the touchdowns can't keep up, but man, they have. So he's probably a guy I'd throw him in over Jordan Addison personally.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Jeudy, you just can't start anymore. You can't at this point. And then Russ is I don't want to call him a start or a sit. He's kind of, if you got him, you'll know if he's a better option. Like if it's him or Jared Goff, it's kind of like, who do you like more, kind of a thing. But if it's like him or Derek Carr's not going to play this week. I don't even know who to say. Aiden O'Connell, then you'll rock Russ. So you kind of know whether you should be rocking him or not. But the 2 running backs we're going to talk about, which I think is crazy if we talked about this beginning of the year, is Austin Eckler and Javonte Williams. Ty. Originally, I think me and you both looked at this and we're like, okay, you start Austin Eckler, you sit Javonte Williams. But we were talking about it on our break. This is a lot closer than we want to admit between these 2 running backs.
Yeah. Where do we even start? I guess we can start with Austin Eckler. It sounds like he's you got to start him. He's been anything but that the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He's averaging just 7 fantasy points in that stretch. It's not good. And Brandon Staley has now come out and said that Josh Kelly is going to see some more carries moving forward, which makes 0 sense. I shouldn't say 0 cents. I should say it like that. I should say this too. Austin Eckler does not look the healthiest. He does not look like he's at 100% and that he's playing through something. Mm-hmm. So maybe that adds in a little bit. Maybe he does need Josh Kelly to take some of the work off of his shoulders. But then you look at the matchup and you're like, well, it's Denver. Like, yeah, Denver has been better against the run lately, but they're still exploitable. So you're like, well, yeah, I should still play him. And originally I was going to say, yeah, you should start out Austin Eckler. But then you look at Javonte Williams in that same 3-game stretch that I was talking about with Austin Eckler, averaging 7 fantasy points. Javonte Williams is averaging 10 fantasy points. And I wanted to say sit Javonte Williams, but can we really? Yeah. Can we really sit Javonte Williams if we're going to say start Austin Eckler? Like, if anything, I think both of these guys are probably just running back 2s, and Javonte Williams probably is a little bit lower of a running back 2. And I know I made a TikTok. I made a minute-long video where I said that Javonte Williams is not a start this week. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can look elsewhere, you should.
Yeah.
But then you got to say the same for Austin Eckler if he's averaging less fantasy points. And it's a serious conundrum that we're in with Austin Eckler. So I really don't know how to exactly say how I feel about both these guys. Mm-hmm. I feel like you still play Austin Eckler because is it the name that's carrying the intrigue?
Yeah.
But again, it's not great. It's not great for both these guys.
He still at least has seen receiving work, although 2 of the last 3 weeks he's been under 3 receptions, which isn't great. But I just want to read you Austin Eckler real quick. His yards per carry since returning from injury by game: 1.93, 3.21, 1.93, 3.36, 3.54, 6.4 on only 10 carries, 3.2, 1.29. That is disgusting. I mean, it does not look great. It's not, it's not what you want to see. But yeah, he is a guy has upside, but at the same time, everything's saying to sit him. So yeah, very hard decisions. This would probably be the first week in, I don't know, 2 years where we've even considered saying sit Austin Eckler. So, and it's in a good matchup. But it would be very hard for me to put him on my bench right at this point, but just got to recognize it's not a good matchup. This could be one of the games of the week this week, Buffalo at Kansas City. We said this about Philly, San Francisco last week, and it wasn't.
Well, it was if you're a Niners fan.
That's true. It was. But Buffalo Eagles the week before that was one of the best. So hopefully this can kind of be in that realm. Mahomes, Allen, Diggs, Kincaid all starts. Pacheco is on the injury report. If he plays, he has just popped up with a shoulder injury. If he plays, he's got to be, I think he's earned that. But I do think he's similar to like James Cook, who is one of the starts from this matchup. I would say pretty much everybody in this matchup is a start, except for, like your Kadarius Tonys. Gabe Davis, is a guy not loving to start, but at the same time, he's 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs before, right? And this is going to feel like a postseason game. Maybe you fire up Gabe Davis if you need to.
Well, there's a new nickname for Gabe Davis. I don't know if you've heard it. It's Big Game Gabe. Big Game Gabe. This certainly falls under big game category. That's true, so wouldn't hate it. Well, here's the litmus test. You ready for this? You ready for this one? Jordan Addison or Gabe Davis?
I'm honestly might go Gabe. I think I'm going to go Gabe Davis in that one.
I'm leaning Gabe Davis too.
Yeah, if I'm thinking of a guy who get me 20 fantasy points this week, it's definitely Gabe Davis between the two of them.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and I think they both have similar floors, so I think I'd go Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bills, we're going to James Cook. I think you got to fire up James Cook this week. Chiefs allowing 5.4 yards per carry to running backs over the last 4 weeks. Both these teams have not looked great over the last couple of weeks as a whole, right? Buffalo's had some good offense. Kansas City did not look good against Green Bay on Monday night. So I think for both these teams, they're like, okay, we need a win, especially Buffalo. Buffalo's in this game has to be like, if we want to make the playoffs, we have to win, right? Kansas City's more like, yeah, if we want to fight for that 1 seed, we needed to win. So I think that James Cook could get going in this one. 12 plus carries in all but 2 games this season, and 16 to 17 carries in the last 2 games. And the last game was against Philly. So 17 carries is, it wasn't the rain, but still impressive against Philly. He also had 7 targets and 6 receptions in that game against Philly. So we are seeing some of that receiving work. And like I said, Kansas City just haven't been great. So I think James Cook is a guy who's going to be similar to Isaiah Pacheco this week. I think he will. I think I lean James Cook over Javonte Williams. I think I'd still have to go with Austin Eckler over James Cook, but I do think that one's very, very close.
And that's crazy. Yeah. Had you said that at the beginning of the year, that would have been the craziest thing. But here we are.
Yep. And then we have Rashee Rice. He is, if he keeps this up, he's going to be a full-blown start. Like, you don't even think about it. 10 and 9 targets over the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's easily the wide receiver 1 in this offense.
Yeah. And
Kelsey hasn't been playing great. Travis Kelsey's another start. Forgot to say that. You got to start him every week. Even though Travis Kelsey, tight end 10, averaging 11.9 points since week 6.
Teams are just double teaming him at this point.
And that's what you should do. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to beat Kansas City, but it's led to Rashee Rice really stepping up as the wide receiver 1 in this offense. So he's got to be another shirt.
Yep.
All right. Sunday Night Football, Philly against Dallas. This could also be game of the week.
Probably is the game of the week, to be honest, because I think Dallas,
could they take the number 1 spot?
I'm gonna look that up, but just know that there is a potential for that to happen. Yes. And I can confirm. But that just adds to the stakes of it.
100%. And these games are always great. You're starting everyone. The only guys I would question, and I don't even think I'm questioning on if they're sits. I think it's tempering expectations for the running backs in this one of Swift and Pollard, just knowing that both teams have great good run defenses. Philly's a little stronger than Dallas. Obviously Dallas has got a decent secondary, but we just saw that get absolutely exploited last week by Seattle, and Philly's got some great wide receivers. Dallas Goedert. That's the last one. That's the only guy I'll ask you about in this one. Coming back off the injury, are you willing to start Dallas Goedert coming off a broken forearm against Dallas?
I feel like you have to. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, well, he's coming off his injury. Hey, a broken forearm is not the same as a high ankle sprain. Mm. Like, yes, it's still an injury, but it is not the same where it's going to limit him. Right. Yeah. Just an example, Isaiah Likely or Dallas Goedert.
You gotta go Dallas Goedert, I think.
Like, again, that's just an example, but again, this could be a high scoring game.
Yeah,
this could also be a defensive game, and I think that's the scariest part of this for fantasy.
Yeah,
like this game could literally be like a 2017 game because it's all defense, but this could also be like a 40 to 34 game like we saw in their first matchup.
Yeah,
because they just put up points like no tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and that, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it is. All right. We actually have 2 Monday Night Football games this week,
and they are pretty gross games.
Do we know why there's 2 this week? Is there like an explanation for that, or there just is
marketing?
Money? Yeah.
Money.
All right.
Probably.
Our first one is Green Bay at the Giants. Green Bay's been on fire. Giants suck. So
there you go.
You got to start Saquon in this one, right? If you got Saquon, this is the matchup to do it. Green Bay still hasn't been very good against the run. Other than that, there's no obvious starts. I'm sitting every other Giant. I wouldn't even blink. Even if Darren Waller was playing in this one, I would not think about starting a Giant. I think Darren Waller's not playing, but
yeah, I think the closest player that could get to must start territory is Jordan Love.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's really about it.
Yeah, I think Jordan Love is a guy that you got to start, 3 straight 20-point games, multiple touchdowns in those 3 games. He just beat Detroit and Kansas City. So, you know what? Knowing young quarterbacks, young teams, this could be a game where they come in and just have an absolute letdown against the Giants after riding that high. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think the Giants are that bad that I don't think they're going to lose to them. And the Giants are giving up the 7th most rushing yards per game over the last 5 weeks. There is rain projected in this game, so that could be interesting. But at the same time, Jordan Love does have a little bit of rushing upside that I think he can kind of make up for whatever he might miss in the passing game.
True.
And then our last game is Monday Night Football, Tennessee at Miami. Ty, would you sit any Miami player in this one?
Nope.
No. You're starting Tyreek, Waddle, Mostert, Achane, Tua.
Yeah. Jeff Wilson. No, kidding.
But yeah, no, the main ones, I mean, those 5 guys, Tua maybe is the only one that isn't. And Waddle might even be getting into that territory a little bit. But at the same time, 99% of the time, you're starting all 5, no matter the matchup.
Yeah. Let me find out. You keep talking. I'm going to look up Jalen Waddle.
And then Derrick Henry. This is a tough one. This is a tough one for Henry. I love your note you got here. Miami gets up on you quick. And when teams get up on Tennessee quick, Derrick Henry does not play nearly as much. He plays under 50% of snaps most times. When their games they've lost by 2 or more touchdowns, Derrick Henry has seen under 50 rushing yards three of the 4 times. That does not bode well then, if you're playing this Miami team in Miami on Monday Night Football when they're the first seed in the AFC for the first time in 30 years. I mean, it
feels like,
and it was probably close to that with, how long Brady had his reign of terror in the AFC, and then you had Manning and right. So I don't know. I would be, Derrick Henry's one guy you might have to start. Like in my league, I got to start him.
Yeah.
But just because I don't have another name that could even match, but this could easily be a 6-7 point game from Derrick Henry.
Yeah. So real quick, back to Jalen Waddle. His floor is that barely flex territory, but his ceiling is then mid to high end wide receiver 2 ish. So I think Waddle, you still start Waddle, and you hope that you see more than 5 catches. But yeah, back to Derrick Henry then. Again, it could very well be what we saw last week with Miami and Washington, and with Tennessee. If that were to happen, like you said, they go away from Derrick Henry then. So, don't feel great, but you might be stuck because here's the thing: you took him in drafts this year to be one of your top running backs, so you might be stuck with him.
Wow, I was wrong. 39 years since Miami has finished as the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Oof. Well,
So,
obviously,
there's a lot of football left to play, so we're not guaranteeing. But it's been 39 years since.
You ready for this? Baltimore and Miami playing week 17, week 16, I think it is.
That's an awesome game too.
Get your popcorn ready.
That one will be fun. All righty, Ty, you ready for some full fellas fade?
When was the last time that we actually did this?
I don't know, but we're about to pop off this week, so let's get into that. Alrighty, Ty. I think we got 2 pretty solid ones here. I feel very confident in this week, and I don't know if that's a good thing.
We may need to change the title of this segment next week after these. Absolutely.
All right, Ty, I'll let you kick it off.
One of my favorite just football shows or videos, I should say. Busted with the Boys, Slips and Picks 500, where they talk betting lines and all that kind of stuff. It's hilarious. One of my favorite videos of the week. Their nickname for this player, call him the Great White Hope. It's Christian McCaffrey. And they talk all the time that anytime you get an anytime touchdown line with Christian McCaffrey, you take it. Well, there isn't one currently, but there's a line that I like just as much, if not a little bit more, to be completely honest. Christian McCaffrey, 79.5 rushing yards, and give me the higher on this. I don't think there's really much explanation other than he's pretty much gone over this line in 3 straight games. And one of those games was against Seattle, and he went over 100 in that game. So I don't know if you really want to argue against me on that one, because if you're arguing against Christian McCaffrey, I'm sorry. You're
usually in the wrong.
You're usually in the wrong. So give me Christian McCaffrey higher than 79.5 rushing yards. Hey, you got the right sound.
I know. I've got it memorized now, so I'm not guessing anymore. So that's good. That's good. We're past that point. I probably should just change the name to the Lock It In sound. We have it as labeled as breaking news sound effect, which is originally what we used it for. But we don't break news for you guys anymore because we don't care about. I'm just kidding. Alrighty, mine is been highly contested in our group chat. I'm gonna call out Lucas here. He has not loved this one the same way I have. It's not that he disagrees. He just, when we're talking about our 5 favorite for the week, he likes some more. But I have DJ Moore higher than 5 receptions, 7 and 11 receptions in the last 2 games with Justin Fields. Detroit has given up the 6th most wide receiver receptions over the last 5 weeks per game. I don't know. I think Fields kind of leans on who he likes. DJ Moore is obviously the best wide receiver in this offense. Detroit hasn't been amazing against the wide receiver position. So I'm going to take DJ Moore higher than 5 receptions. And I hope you guys feel as confident about this one as we do, because I'm going to be shocked if this one doesn't absolutely smack. But yeah, we started our recording time says 1:17. I know episode's not going to be that long, but I think we did go a little bit
longer. We went a little
longer. So we're sorry about that, but there was a lot to get into it. It's midday, so everything's just completely thrown off for us.
Just canceled the Miami trip. We're just going to hibernate because everything is upside down.
What's going on? We don't know what time of year it is. But thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get it from. If you guys want to leave us a review, drop a comment. We love to hear from you guys. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're going to leave us a little 5-star review. That'd be fantastic.
Thanks in advance.
Thanks in advance. Drop those notifications. But yeah, like I said, we do not have a video coming out tomorrow. That is unique. If you wanted your 8 must starts to go to Wednesday next week, we will be back on our normal track of 3 videos, 2 podcasts, and a whole short every single day. We will run that through the remainder of the fantasy football playoffs. And then after week 17, we will look to transition towards off-season content, maybe a little bit dynasty here and there, maybe
NFL
draft. Ty's going to be back in his happy place at the NFL draft. There you go, cooking some stuff up for us, some mocks. I saw Ty's first little mock of the season already. Pretty crazy. Had Shedeur Sanders going 1 overall. I'm just kidding.
I had JJ McCarthy going 2. I had Arizona taking quarterbacks in both spots.
It was absolutely nuts.
It was nuts.
But yeah, so thank you guys again for listening. Good luck this week and your last week before the playoffs. And yeah, with that, we will see you. Oh, do you got something to say quick, Ty?
I was going to say, if you have any other start say questions that you may have, join our group chat. All you got to do,
Chalkboard, baby.
Chalkboard. Link for it is in the bio. Click on that. There is a page dedicated to start say questions. Go ahead and drop it in there and tag us. Tag Lucas, tag myself, tag Cameron in it. We will answer your questions. And especially since Lucas and I will be flying back from Miami, we're going to be looking for stuff to do while we wait for our flight. So ask away. And Let's win our matchups in week 14 and get into the playoffs.
Let's do it. Alrighty. We will see you guys then next week. And deuces.
Deuces.